There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. Think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. In the photo of a girl taken a few months before she died, her light brown hair is matted. Her face and clothes are smudged with dirt. She holds a chain in her tiny hands, a glimpse at the hardships of her all too short life. The United Nations defines refugee as somebody who has been forced to flee his or her country due to reasons of war, violence, or persecution. A refugee has a well-founded fear of persecution due to reasons of race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or participation in a particular social group. There are 26 million refugees globally. Half of these are children. They set my aunt's house on fire. I cried the way women on TV do, folding in the middle like a 5-pound note. I called the boy who used to love me, tried to okay my voice. I said, "Hello." He said, "What's wrong? What's happened?" So I've been praying, and these are what my prayers sound like. Dear God, I come from 2 countries. One is thirsty and the other is on fire. Both need water. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's a sound we often hear through the noise of our daily lives. But how often do we stop and listen? How often do we pause to recognize that behind every headline, statistic, and report of violence are real people, real children whose lives have been shattered by the unthinkable? But today we need to confront the truth. War does not just affect countries, it destroys lives. And behind every refugee, behind every person displaced, and behind every child caught in the crossfire is a human story that demands our attention. This will be portrayed through the pieces What They Did Yesterday Afternoon by Warson Shire, Fleeing Homes by Varsani Rambagaran, The Day War Came by Nicola Davies, an article by the New York Times and For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield, The Cost of Conflict, a program. Because it's time we stop and look, really look at what's going down. War is a complex human activity. Insurgence is its most complex variant. The day war came, there were still flowers on the windowsill. My father rocked my baby brother back to sleep. My mom made me breakfast, kissed my nose, and walked with me to school. At school, I learned about volcanoes and sang a song about how tadpoles turn at last into frogs. I drew a picture of myself with wings. But then, just after lunch, war came. At first, just like a spattering of hail or a voice of thunder, but then it was all smoke and noise that I didn't understand. It came onto the playground, it came across my teacher's face, and it turned my town to rebel. Citizens are made to flee their homes, forced to spend days in refugee camps. 6-year-old Nala spent her final years living in a crowded tent with her father and siblings in an impoverished camp made for those who had been displaced by a decade of war, largely forgotten by the world. To keep her from wandering around, her father often shackled her in a cage he fashioned out of her crib. We asked him more than once to unchain her, not to shackle her, but he constantly refused. 85% of the world's refugees are being hosted in developing countries. 1.4 million need resettlement immediately. We live in tents, no doors and no locks, and Nala kept on wandering around. The only solution was to shackle her. Fight for independence, liberation, war against terror or dictatorship, or for democracy. We're talking about children who are born in tents. We're talking about children who don't know if they have a bed to sleep in at night. They have forgotten what a normal life is like. I can't say the words that describe to you the blackened hole that had become my home. All I can say is this: war took everything. War took everyone. I was all alone. The three fundamental and essential human requirements: food, clothing, and shelter being denied by zealots of war. I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Nala's life came to a tragic end when she choked to death while desperately hungry and eating too quickly. Images of her in the chains spread quickly on the internet, sparking outrage and drawing attention to the suffering of millions of children in camps dotted across Syria, Afghanistan, Myanmar, and more. Unnatural, man-made disasters leave humans shattered. Because of war on terror in Afghanistan, Iraq, Palestine, Somalia, and in many places on earth, innocent and peace-loving citizens become the pawns in the games played by the largest and richest democracies and regions far away from the safe havens of their home, but making locals experience hell. I rode on the back of trucks, in buses, over mountains and in valleys, in the cold, mud, and rain, until I came across a beach where babies lay face down in the sand. I ran until I couldn't run anymore, until I came across a row of huts and found a corner with a dirty blanket and a door that rattled in the wind. But war had followed me here. It was under my skin, behind my eyes, and in my dreams. It had taken possession of my soul. Citizens are made to be the pawns in the games played by these. Why aren't you listening? Because of war on terror. Peace hanging precariously on the decisions of the selected few rich nations and their vulnerable and volatile leaders. Make this human misery stop. Make this forced fleeing of homes by innocent and peace-loving citizens stop. Is there an end to this double game played by the West, the leaders of 2 world wars, but the perpetrators of all wars since then? Nala's father was detained for several weeks on suspicion of neglect, but he was released. He said he had committed no crime. Nala was an innocent angel. I tried to look for help, but I couldn't find any. On May 4th, camp residents found Nala choking and rushed her to a hospital in the nearby village of Kili. Muhammad al-Mustafa, a local pediatrician there, said that the hospital lacked the proper equipment to treat Nala. He said that if they had had a ventilator or a children's ward, they could have done something. They could have saved Nala. I came to a school and looked through the windows, and they were learning about volcanoes and singing songs and drawing pictures, so I went inside. But the teacher didn't smile back at me. She said, "There is no room for you." And then I understood. War had gotten here too. It seemed like war had taken the whole world and all of the people in it. Later that night, I held an atlas in my lap. I ran my fingers across the whole world and whispered, "Where does it hurt?" It answered, "Everywhere. It hurts. Everywhere, 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 everywhere." I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.